Top 4 beginner operators. So either you're just starting out and you have limited renown, or you have plenty of renown, but you still want to use operators that are easy to learn, will be effective on the majority of maps and game modes, and are still great operators at higher levels of play. I kept the obvious factors like their weapons and gadgets in mind, but ultimately I chose these 4 based on the easy learning curve of their special abilities, and most importantly, you won't completely screw your team over when you die often, which you will. Don't take this as a bad thing because this makes it less of an issue to be aggressive and really helps you learn faster than if you played passively. Starting with the defensive side, our first operator, and I'm sure you guessed it, is Rook. You have high armor so you can take some extra damage, giving you a little more room for error while you're still learning the maps and angles the attackers can get the drop on you. His special ability will always help the team and give them a split-second advantage in a one-on-one gunfight, so he is always a useful operator regardless of what map or game mode you're on. The best part is you can put his armor pack down as soon as the round starts, giving your team the upper hand, and now you're done. You can do whatever you want at this point, and when you die, you aren't losing anything special for your team. To add to this, you have one of the best guns in the game. The MP5 is super accurate even with sustained automatic fire, and with the high rounds per minute, you're able to win up-close engagements against the majority of weapons when you can't land a headshot. For Rook, I suggest the MP5 with the ACOG sight because the recoil is relatively manageable and it lets you utilize this weapon's accuracy. The foregrip because it's the only choice and it mitigates some of the recoil, and the flash hider to reduce that recoil even further with this burst fire. For now, you should go with the P9 semi-auto handgun instead of the revolver because it's easier to use, has a faster rate of fire, and easily manageable recoil. I like equipping the impact grenades because it helps open up playable areas around the objective so you don't get cornered, and also gives you the ability to take on shielded players directly. I would choose this over the shield because most new players end up getting themselves cornered in a room with these things, and you have to remember that enemies can use the shield as well. So go with the impacts for now. In regards to your strategy, you can roam, just stay relatively near the objective room because you're very slow and loud when you move around the map. You don't want to be that person that's across the map when the enemy starts taking the objective and get one-tapped on the way back because your loud thumping gives away your position before you make it. Play the areas around the objective room and slow walk when you're trying to flank, and you should be able to see a good amount of action without leaving the objective completely undefended. The next defensive operator is Jaeger. His special gadget is the active defense system that takes out most throwable and launchable objects, which is always a benefit to the team on any game mode or map. Almost every attacker has something that can be destroyed by the ADS, so there's always a use for this operator. Just like Rook's armor, you can set up before the round starts without needing to worry about dying before giving your team an advantage. The setup needs to be a little more precise though. You don't want to put each ADS near each other because they will simultaneously take out the same object. You want to put it in an open space without objects nearby so it can reach its full range, but balance this out with how visible they will be when the enemy approaches the objective. Generally, the higher the ADS is placed, the more effective they can be, but keep in mind they are vulnerable to Twitch drones before the match starts, so it might benefit you to put them up towards the end of the setup time and or take out Twitch's drone, which will help everybody. Also, try not to put them near walls that Thatcher might use his EMP grenades on. For Jaeger's next gadget, you should always go with the barbed wire. It can seriously benefit your team in every situation. Even if everyone has it equipped, you need to run with it. Slowing down the enemies on defense is always a good strategy because time is on your side. Now that the objective rooms are prepped, you can roam around with your 3-speed operator and one of the most beautiful primary weapons in the game. This thing is just sexy. I mean, look at it. But not only does it look awesome, it is a high damage weapon with decently manageable recoil and a good RPM. I like the ACOG sight, but try using the hollow point because it is easier to manage the recoil with this sight. Make sure to attach the foregrip and the flash hider to hide the flash and help with that small burst recoil. I really like how the suppressor looks on the 416, but you benefit more from the other barrel attachments. I actually do like to have the suppressor equipped on Jaeger's secondary just in case I get the drop on an enemy who isn't alone, and I can take the first one out without anyone noticing. In regards to strategy, like I said, Jaeger is a high-speed operator and he's relatively quiet when moving around, so roaming is much easier with this operator than Rook, so you can easily roam a little further from the objective. Just remember that he has low armor as well, so taking rounds will be less forgiving when you do find some action. Moving on to the attackers and the operator with the most complicated special gadget out of the four, Twitch. The Twitch drone is extremely valuable to the team, and you can really rack up some points and clear the objective room without putting yourself in the line of fire. Remember though, if no one brings a Thatcher, you are the one that will be responsible for taking out electrified or muted walls, so don't let these drones get destroyed. As tantalizing as it may be to shock enemies and hear them scream, even I do it when I'm messing around, but try to hold off until you've taken out as many gadgets and cameras as possible before tormenting them. My usual strategy in regards to the Twitch drone is to take out as many cameras as possible without getting too close to enemies. If you hear their footsteps, find cover for your drone because you want at least one to survive the entire round. If you see an opening to take out a gadget near the objective room, do it, but I usually wait until the round starts when the enemies start to move away from the objective. Then your priorities become mute jammers and electrified walls. Take these out and any other gadget you see when you can, and then start zapping some of the enemies while your teammates are pushing the objective. When you decide to push the objective yourself, you will have the advantage of a balanced 2-speed, 2-armor operator with one of the best primary weapons in the game. The F2 has a really high rate of fire with a relatively high damage and easily manageable recoil. So you can use the ACOG sight to reach enemies at a distance and get really tight groupings even with automatic fire. With the foregrip and flash hider attached, you will have no trouble keeping sustained fire on target. Additionally, with that high rate of fire, you'll be able to win most gunfights even up close. You have the same handgun options as you do for Rook, and the same justification applies here, so go with the P9 over the revolver. You have the option to go with the breach charge or the claymore, but I find more strategic value for the breach charges, so I suggest going with these. In regards to strategy, use the drone with the priorities I mentioned earlier and jump back on it when the round starts to avoid getting spawn peeked. After you've taken out another gadget or two, reposition yourself near the structure or objective while still in a safe location. At this point, you can push the objective with your drone and team following it, and when they start to take the objective, you can rush in to clean up the enemies on the perimeter. Now finally, on to the fourth operator, and this one is probably the most biased, which is Sledge. Out of the four, he is the least picked in regards to professional leagues, but for those same reasons, I think he is a great operator for beginners and can still be very useful at higher levels of play. Ultimately, his gadget does not benefit the team in a significant way. The ability to breach floors and walls is something almost every attacking operator can do, but this leaves you with the opportunity to be really aggressive and go lone wolf, especially when you're playing with randoms who don't communicate, which can happen quite often. In general, he is a very fun operator to play, and I can't think of a better reason to use him. You can create paths around the map relatively quietly, making it easier to flank enemies and create new angles around the objective faster than the defenders can anticipate. You can easily take out castle and wooden barricades without making yourself vulnerable by making noise prior to the breach. You're a balanced 2-speed, 2-armor operator, so you're able to move around swiftly and take a little damage without dying, and you have one of the best weapon loadouts in the game. You have the L85, which is hard hitting at longer ranges with an easily manageable recoil, letting you utilize the ACOG foregrip and flash hider combo to full effect. When you start to get onto those closer engagements, you can switch to the SMG-11 with the highest RPM and just annihilate defenders. You seriously will win almost every gunfight up close with this weapon. You also get the frag grenades to add to your arsenal, letting you take out enemies without losing your cover, flush out defenders, and take out gadgets. You can see why this is one of the most fun attackers and one of the best rushers, so don't overlook him when you have all the operators unlocked. Alright, I hope this helps you choose a couple of operators to get really comfortable with while you're still learning the game, but I think that is it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you on the next video.